Hello Internet, my name is Lave and today I watched Transformers The Last Knight, which of course is directed by Michael Bay and is the 5th instalment in his franchise. I can't believe we live in a world where there are 5 Michael Bay Transformers films. Now, I've been posting movie reviews on YouTube for over a year now, and I absolutely love doing it. It's my favourite thing to do, but reviewing this film really does feel like a chore. Just for the record, I'm a child of the 80s, so of course I grew up watching and loving the Transformers cartoon. I even still own the Transformers movie, and I actually did quite like the first Transformers. The kid in me loved seeing photorealistic Transformers come to life on the big screen. It definitely has its problems for sure, which became more evident in 2, 3 and 4, and my love of the series has dropped dramatically as a result of that. As the saying goes, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, fool me 3 times, yeah. So I knew going into this that I wasn't going to like it, especially because I'd watched all of the other big YouTube reviewers and their reviews of this film who all slated it. I particularly liked Dan Murrell from Screen Junkies. He aired all of the frustrations that he has with it, and he's absolutely right. I agree with every point he has to say. With that said, I don't think I can really add anything to the conversation, so I wasn't going to do a review for this, but then I started to think about another summer blockbuster film, which is going for the same target demographic. It's based off a kids' TV show from decades ago, and ultimately it's just trying to sell toys, and that is the Power Rangers film. So I thought it would be really interesting to compare both to see what works and what doesn't. I definitely think one is better and one isn't. I did actually go to see the Power Rangers movie and started to put a review together, but too much time had passed and I had work and other commitments, so I drew a line under it, but I thought now is a good opportunity to talk about it. So let's start with the plot summary for both films, starting with Transformers The Last Knight. So back in the Dark Ages, an ancient Transformer helps King Arthur take on the Saxons by giving Merlin a stick and a Transformers dragon. Flash forward to present day in the Transformers universe, and Mark Wahlberg has got to find this stick in order to save the world. And if all of that sounds familiar, well, it's because it's the exact same plot from Transformers 1, 2, 3 and 4. They've got to find something which links to the events of the past to help save the world. That's it. It's literally the same movie. I've been thinking about the meeting that Michael Bay must have had with his screenwriters, and it must have broken down like this. Hey Michael, we've come up with an idea for Transformers 5. We're basically going to do exactly the same as all of the other films, but we're going to base it on the King Arthur legend. The King Arthur legend? Didn't he slay a dragon? No, actually I think that was St. George. I don't care, I'm going to put a dragon in my movie. A Transformers dragon? Yeah. The Power Rangers movie has a pretty similar premise. Zordon was once a Power Ranger billions of years ago who has a battle with Rita, and in order to defeat her, he entombs her by sacrificing himself. Flash forward to present day at Angel Grove. Teenagers come across these power coins which give them superhuman powers, just as Rita comes back to destroy the world, so the teenagers must learn to work together and become Power Rangers and save the world. So yeah, pretty similar premises, but let's look at the differences between the two films and the way that they focus and develop their characters. And that is the difference. The Power Rangers movie chooses to take its time to get to know the characters, who all have their own problems, which is explored to a certain degree as they begin to learn their new powers. And ultimately the message of the film is that they must work together to defeat Rita, which is very admirable. Transformers 5 on the other hand starts off with the flashback to the Dark Ages, then it comes back up to modern times as we catch up with these random kids. One of them ends up going off with Marky Mark. He's got his own problems. We then catch up with Anthony Hopkins, who's knocking around with a robot butler. English Megan Fox gets tied up into the plot. You've got the army dude from the first 2 Transformers. Optimus Prime is off in space getting turned into evil. You've also got the Decepticons and Megatron doing their own thing. They're making shady deals with the army dude, and that's it. It literally bounces around from all of these different subplots. It doesn't really focus in on any of its characters, and as a result of that, I didn't care about any of them. At least the Power Rangers film, I cared about these teenagers. And that's what all of the reviewers mean when they say that it's a simple premise, but it's so convoluted. And for that reason, we're going to give Power Rangers a win over Transformers 5. Now, both movies have questionable moments of humour. The Power Rangers in particular has one which is very out of place, where they talk about masturbating a cow. It's like they're trying to imitate Michael Bay, which is a big no-no. It's just very out of place. Transformers 5, on the other hand, has many more moments like that. It's still got that really perverted sense of humour, which Michael Bay has been criticised for in all of his other films. And instead of addressing them in this film, he actually highlights them by getting his characters to point them out. There's a moment where a character describes another character as being vaguely racist, and one scene in particular which is surely going to piss off all of the feminists out there, which involves English Megan Fox, where she goes home to meet her mum and her auntie and all of her other women English friends, and they're all sitting around laughing, saying, oh, you're really intelligent and you got a really good job, but what you really need in your life is a man to bonk. I kid you not. And then it gets even worse, because Marky Mark turns up and they go into her room and they're looking for something and they're knocking things over, and all of the women downstairs think they're upstairs having sex. Oh, it's hilarious. F you, Michael Bay. Not only that, he shamelessly rips off characters from Star Wars. A character even says at one point, what's the deal with this C-3PO ripoff? And it is a C-3PO ripoff and a K-2SO ripoff at the same time. He even rips off BB-8 from Force Awakens. It's so blatant, and again, he's just going, you, I don't care. From what I can remember, at least the only thing that Power Rangers is ripping off is its own source material, and then it's doing it to pay homage to it. So again, we're going to give another win to Power Rangers. Now, the only element which you could argue Transformers does better than Power Rangers is the visual effects, and you would expect that considering this is the 5th movie and Michael Bay has been doing it for such a long time, and the visual effects are better than Power Rangers. The Power Rangers has moments where it is a bit cheesy and a bit corny, but then that is the difference between a $100 million film and a probably $250 million film. But I actually think that Power Rangers is a much better film in terms of its construction and its editing. It always flows nicely and you can always tell what is going on. Whereas Transformers 5 made me feel like I had ADHD, as it bounces around from one explosion to another. It's just completely incomprehensible. But that's not exclusive to the action scenes. It happens when characters are just exchanging dialogue. They'll be talking about something in one place and then it will cut and they'll be walking away, miles away from the building that they're in, still having the same conversation. It's rubbish. It's all just completely hectic, and it's further highlighted by the fact that Michael Bay has filmed it in multiple formats. It jumps from IMAX presentation to letterbox in the very same scene. It's absolutely bizarre and brain-hurtingly bad. So again, for overall presentation and the way it tells its story, I have to give the win to Power Rangers. To be honest, I could go on forever at how bad Transformers is, but I'd only be repeating what other people have already said. If you like Transformers, that's absolutely fine. You're probably 12 years old and that's absolutely fine. It's for you, but I guarantee you when you get older and you watch them again, you're going to be like, what was I thinking? So let's wrap things up there. So that is my thoughts on Transformers The Last Night, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. And to compare, this is my thoughts on the Power Rangers movie, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. Power Rangers isn't a great movie. It's not something that I'm going to buy on Blu-ray, but I think it does a lot of things right where Transformers does a lot of things wrong. It's just got its priorities right and it focuses in on its characters, and at the end of the day, I cared about those characters. And what I really liked about it is that it doesn't go all out and blow its wad and give you Power Rangers from the start all the way through in this big mess. It actually builds up a sense of anticipation and makes you wait for it, and when they finally arrive and they get into their Zords and they fight Goldar, all that stuff, it feels earned. Whereas Transformers, on the other hand, blows its wad by just throwing everything at the screen in a big ADHD mess, and I didn't care about any of the characters. I don't want to spend too much more time on this video because Transformers has robbed 2.5 hours of my life already, but I do want to share one story as a result of Power Rangers, which is kind of indirectly led to the funniest cinema experience I've had this year. Now, this does sort of spoil a moment from Power Rangers, so if you want to turn away, then do so now, because what I want to share is there is a moment in Power Rangers when Billy actually dies. He gets killed by Rita, and out of the corner of my eye I saw this kid in the audience sort of sit up in his chair, and I'm sitting there thinking, they're not going to kill off their best character. He's going to come back at some point, but obviously this kid doesn't know that. And then of course Zordon actually brings him back to life, and this kid went, yes! It was the funniest thing. Oh, it was so amazing. Transformers 5 doesn't really have a moment like that. Maybe you could argue the bit when Optimus Prime turns good again. I sort of woke up a little bit for that, but then fell straight back to sleep. But man, that kid just absolutely made my day when he did that. That was so funny. So there we go. That's my thoughts on Transformers The Last Night versus Power Rangers. I think Power Rangers is a better movie. Not one that I'm going to own, but still a better movie. And thanks very much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like, and don't forget to share the lave. I am Optimus Prime. I'm Nemesis Prime. I'm Prime. Optimus Prime. Subscribe.